Hope is never mere, Elrond, even when it is meager. When all other senses sleep, the eye of hope is first to awaken, last to shut. If the elves abandon Middle-earth now, the armies of darkness will march over the face of the earth. It will be the end not just of our people, but of all peoples. If the hope of preventing that is not reason enough to make you reconsider your oath, I suggest you find another. Pretty good quote from Gil-galad.
The real villain of the show. Welcome to Podcast of the Rings.
Welcome to Podcast of the Rings. But this quote, right off the bat, like, we had a borderline existential crisis during our watch-along, where the fact that this whole show starts with everyone being like, Galadriel, calm down. Sauron's gone. He's never coming back. He's been gone for centuries. You're off your rocker. You're at the north of North Poles, chasing rocks and finding cave drawings and like going full QAnon. But then the first thing Gil-galad says is, "Hey, if all of us go, then the armies of darkness will take over." What armies of darkness? I thought they were all gone, Gil-galad. Did you just not like Galadriel?
This episode is such an important one to rewatch because of all the inconsistencies.
Yes.
And we're supposed to be bought in at this point, and we're supposed to be excited for Numenor to go. And a lot of people argued that the pacing was slow up to this point. We're already more than halfway through this series, right? Is it 7 episodes?
This is episode 6.
No, this is episode 5. But how many in total are there?
I think
it's 7, not 7?
No. I think there's at least 8.
Okay, so we're halfway through.
Yeah.
And they still haven't even left Numenor. There's a lot of things that are like, come on, guys, come on. So I was prepared for this episode to be like a drag, but it's not. But then there are some things exactly like you said. That quote, by the way, probably is the most Tolkien so far.
Yes, it is.
Because what is the Lord of the Rings trilogy if not an epic tale of hope?
And without context, it is like a good quote from someone who's supposed to be, an elven lord. Like, if you take everything out, if you just read that, be like, yeah, that is something like that Gil-galad would say, an elven leader would say. But then you take everything else that he does and say along with it, and it doesn't factor in at all.
It's counterintuitive to the character we've gotten to know up until this point.
Yeah.
Mischievous, untrusting, powerful, and hungry, and ulterior motives, but then talks about hope. So this is the part, again, we're looking at it, we are not doing this rewatch, acting as though we don't know the spoilers. We know the story.
Yes.
This is the part that makes me go, okay, maybe the elves won't actually be saved by Mithril. The elves just want it. Because the part that bothers a lot of like Silmarillion heads are that all of a sudden Mithril is powerful and magical to the elves and needs to save their lives. I don't care about that so much. I think it's an interesting way to incorporate the Silmarils, which are so important to elf history. That doesn't bother me as much. But this is the fact that we can't trust Gil-galad at all up to this point very much. It makes me think that his story, thinking that the Mithril is going to save the elves, is also untrue.
But do we see it in this episode, or is it a future episode where like they put the Mithril to a leaf and like the dark veins like disappear? Is that a future episode?
I think they did do that. I forgot about that.
No, but I'm not saying you're not wrong, because, and that's why that, like, we were looking for quotes for the beginning of this episode, and I was like, wow, He does say that, and that's like a really good quote because, you know, it's a very understanding quote of like, I understand your oath with your friend, but like we are going to die. Like this isn't, it's not, you know, some political scheming quote, but everything else he's done up until that point is contrary to that. And especially if he knew that there are armies of darkness out there waiting for the elves to leave the shores, he just sent Galadriel off on a grudge. Like, because... Like,
that's what is actually the most counterintuitive to what he's saying here.
Yeah, and if...
Why is sending Galadriel out protecting you from this scourge?
Because, then that's the thing, is that I've said this, you know, from the beginning, is that, like, we have the gift of, like, foresight, you know, of Lord of the Rings. Like, we know that Sauron's coming back. Like, at the beginning of this show. We know that. We know Galadriel's in the right. Is she headstrong? Is she, you know, uncouth? Is she going about it all the wrong ways? Absolutely. That's called character growth, and I'm here for it. But we know that she's going to be proven right about Sauron returning to Middle-earth. Or, you know, returning to Mordor.
Because she makes him come. I don't even feel like that. I'm just saying it's also her fault that he comes back.
It is, but you said you know what you did. You know what you did.
No,
don't play Gil-galad here and play. Oh, what? I was just saying.
But hope.
Yeah. But this whole thing is just like then own that. If you want your Elven King to be like little crap, like, you know, we've gotten what's his name, Lee Pace. Like we've seen that Elven Kings aren't all Galadriel, aren't all
infallible. And,
yes.
Yeah.
We've seen that they can be greedy, they can be hostile, they can, you know,
untrustworthy.
Untrustworthy, overprotective of their people. Like, but, you know, at least we saw with Thranduil, like, he's doing it for his people. Like, he saw what happened when they sent out armies. He's like, no, we're not doing that again. We're protecting our borders, and that's it. I'm here for my wife's necklace, and that's it. I don't care. I've killed too many of my people. We're out. But somehow they still win the Battle of Five Armies. It makes no sense. But we're not getting any of that. Like, if I'd rather see a crafty, like, Game of Thrones-ish Gil-galad that's doing whatever he can to help the elven people because he realized, okay, there's this scourge that, you know, this dark vein on our tree. We need this mithril. I'm going to manipulate Elrond. I'm going to manipulate Durin. I'm going to do whatever I can for our people. And maybe that's what we're going to get in season 2. But it just seems so all over the place. If
the concern is, first of all, the elves can go back to Valinor. They could all just like go, you know what, forget it. We'll just go.
Yeah, we're out. Bye.
But they could do that here, which is what they do at the end of the books of Lord of the Rings. And I don't know why their time is up. If you know more about Lord of the Rings than I do, and you know why their time is up and it's time for them to go, it always just felt like something where they all internally knew our time here has ended.
It felt like the magic was like leaving Middle-earth.
So is this the beginning of that and they've tried to stave it off? But anyway, Galadriel literally lived for the sole purpose of finding the Dark Lord, quote unquote. And he casts her out and says that if they aren't saved and if they leave, the Dark Lord will take over.
Yeah, it makes no sense.
That doesn't make sense. Why did he think by making Galadriel leave that would have staved off the scourge? That is because we know what's happening. And if I had a little bit more narrative literacy when we first watched this, I would have caught that. It's a very and maybe I'm missing something, but I think that pinged for you and I while we were watching that.
It really did, and there's a lot of stuff that I forgot. And we'll get to the Harfoots and like the albinos that are chasing Saruman / Gandalf, because I totally forgot about them. But yeah, that line really stuck out where it's like, wait.
Then what's the motivation? What? Listen, I think it's fine to also make the elves covetous of mithril. I think it's fine to say that the Balrog fought an elf and that's what forged Mithril. I love that, actually.
I thought that was cool, with the lightning striking and the veins of the trees become the mithril ores. All about it.
I think it's very cool. And people had a problem with that. I think in general, though, more people had a problem with the Mithril's gonna save elves. I would have been okay with the elves going, no, we need to protect ourselves for the army, for fighting against the darkness, or what,
we need the good armor, or something.
whatever. Make them covetous of this, and I would buy it a little bit more. Anyway, it's a as with anything, and even Peter Jackson did this, you're gonna stretch the narrative to make it work.
Yeah.
Dune did it. They stretched the narrative to make Chani go, screw Paul. You know what I mean? But that works. And I can understand people that are way too precious to the book or the canon, and they have a hard time with it.
Yeah.
It's not easy to translate something in a short form narrative like this. It's just not. So I can forgive them some of their choices. I really can't wait to see season 2 to see how much they're going to dig in with regards to Mithril, ultimately.
Yeah, and for me, it felt like too much of a get out of jail free card for everybody involved with the Mithril. It's oh, well, the dwarves were going to stop delving for it, but the elves really needed it, so they didn't have a choice in delving too deep. It's no, it's okay for people to be
a little bit greedy.
To be greedy and to want this precious thing that is this isn't just something shiny. It's you can weld it and mold it and turn it into chainmail and probably swords and other things. It's a very worthwhile material. And so, I don't know. It's I like that thing where it's yes, we are in this mythical fantasy world with these otherworldly beings, but they still make mistakes. They still make, but this time, their mistakes are unleashing, a devil beast
Sure.
that can't be contained.
Sure.
I want to see that. I don't need
You don't need a lot. I don't need to be contrived. Let me ask you this question. Galadriel was sent away because Gil-galad claims to think that would have staved it off or maybe held it back. She didn't go. They don't know that. Do you think if she did in this world as written by the showrunners for Rings of Power, if she had gone, would she have stopped it?
That's a good question because it's such a butterfly effect where she doesn't meet Halbrand on the boat and he goes off and does his, knapsack journey in Numenor. Or does he die by the sea monster or something?
What I didn't think about until this very moment, Morgoth, I believe, is the one who corrupted elves. Adar is a corrupt elf.
Mm-hmm.
Is Galadriel, by pursuing Sauron, corrupting?
I think you could make a case for it.
And is that what the dark veins are?
Is the corruption?
Is it corruption?
I think it's an interesting thought experiment. I don't think that if Galadriel leaves, I don't think it solves anything.
I'm just wondering if it would, if she actually, because she even says this in this episode. I believe they cast me out because I was no longer distinguishable between myself and the enemy.
They said that. She says they viewed her as that.
Yeah. But is that corruption?
I think it's corruption to a certain extent where we've seen her hard-headedness and, and her kind of one-track mind about everything. But I think it might have delayed Sauron coming back, but I think he's gonna get yelled at his boss one day at the armory, and he's gonna be like, you know what? Forget this job. I quit. By the way, I'm the Dark Lord, and I'm gonna kill everybody here now.
I totally agree with you that Sauron would come back eventually. He's OCD, really. He really wants order out of chaos. And he's going to see how the Numenorians are, and he's going to try to take over. Our Galadriel that we're watching right now in season 2 is probably going to feel really guilty about her bringing Sauron back to the Southlands or whatever. But I think you're totally right. He would have shown up no matter what. I guess what my question is she the symbol of elves being corrupted? And maybe the scourge is growing because he's getting closer to the Southlands. Yeah. So, all right. I just solved the whole story, I think.
You solved all of it.
I think I just did. All right. Do you want to get the Harfoots out of the way? Because it's the most boring part.
They try. I will say this part is better than most, but it's also just like, and again, Nori is younger than Frodo or Bilbo was. So like she is a child where like, Frodo is at least, what is he, like 18? Probably like
he's like 50.
He's like 50?
Yeah, which is still immature. Like I don't think they hit maturity until they're like 30 or something. So he's like 30 or he's young. He's a baby.
Is he 50? Is he that old?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
But their immaturity is up until that age, basically. So basically
Gotcha.
he has just crested adulthood as far as whether it's 50 or 40.
So he just graduated college, basically.
He just graduated college. I feel like he's 30. Like, I think he's an emotional 30.
Emotional 30. That makes sense, because
For us.
Yeah. But so it is difficult to compare, those two, because but it's not our fault, because they're definitely trying to make her Frodo with like the curiosity and like, oh no, let's go on an adventure and all these things. And
I'm going to help him. I'm a good person. Yeah.
Yeah. She's also a dumbass. Like, she's just stupid. Like, I'm still convinced that the giant stranger is Sauron.
Yeah.
And they do like a little bit of like they're migrating. And by the way, I said this, and I won't say it on the podcast, but the chief's wife is just the worst. She's
playing the role to a T.
No, great actor. I have nothing wrong with this actor. She's killing it. She is killing it. But there is a difference between saving the Harfoots and like, hey, you broke your ankle. Hey, you got mauled by a wolf. We have to leave you behind because, our caravan, like, we can't stop.
Put you to the front. We have to go. Yeah.
We can't sacrifice the caravan of Harfoots for everybody. She threatens she's like, you should take their wheels. That's different.
That is different.
Now, if the stranger wasn't there and Nori's dad with his hobbled ankle falls behind, you know what? That's nature. That's
the Harfoot's way of accepting and embracing. Way.
Right. And we wait for you. You don't, but we understand.
That's my problem.
Yeah, but when it comes, but she's literally plotting like Cersei to like take their wheels. They're keeping up. They're doing fine. They're in the back of the van. They're a little behind, but like, they're not bothering anybody. They're singing songs with Poppy. She's got a great singing voice. Nori's teaching the stranger some rudimentary English and like their migratory patterns. And then just out of nowhere, by the way, we should take their wheels. We should murder them. This isn't Harfoot way. This is murder.
Well, what she was saying, I'm not justifying it here, but what I'm saying is, she says because she introduced the stranger who they don't fully trust, the choice should have been made like, no, this is grievous. You have offended us, and the wheels should be taken because of that.
Yeah, that's not an excuse.
She's
hey, you broke our rules, so like it's one thing to like, they're not endangering, like it's been shown at least to a point that the stranger's not going to like eat them or murder them in their sleep. Like, he's not a danger to them. She's just talking about like, oh, I'm a Taurus and the stranger's a Scorpio. We should kill him. That's literally what she's saying.
As a Taurus, I do love Scorpios, but I do want to kill them occasionally.
That's fair. Like, yeah. It's literally, she's just like, his vibes are off. We should murder him. Like, that's literally what this old hag is saying. And like, we're supposed, again, this goes back to, we don't like anybody in this show except Durin and Disa.
But they're even plotting too.
And they're plotting. It's like everybody's plotting. It's like, who am I rooting for?
Right.
Because even Galadriel in this episode says, my best friend conspired with our king to throw me out of the fucking planet! Guys, they threw off the plane of existence!
Jesus Christ. What is that, the ninth realm or something?
Like this isn't like, oh, we're gonna move to, the Midwest or something like that.
We're gonna relocate you to,
You know what? We got a job for you in like Branson, Missouri or something. No, we've got a job for you in like this. Granted, it's in heaven, but you'll no longer exist. Like,
wow. That's some friend. Some friend.
And then we have... And it's like then we have the dumb Harfoot and her evil conspiring hierarchy, and then a stranger who can't talk, and then an elf who's insanely good looking but not the best fighter, and in this episode his little soon-to-be a-hole stepson. Like,
hold on, Arondir is a great fighter.
He hasn't shown it yet.
You didn't see what he did to the orcs?
One time he stuck a stick in an orc's eye.
Do you not remember the giant orc he fights in the next episode?
I'm saying we haven't seen it yet. And I'm sorry, one giant orc, pretty sure Legolas handled hundreds, if not thousands of them, okay?
Not my Legolas.
That's everybody's Legolas, babe. Those are facts.
Wow. You know what? He talked about bravery to Theo. That should make him esteem you. That should make you esteem him more than anything. He's there to fight with these dumb humans.
He's not the stepdad. He's the dad that stepped up.
No. No. Oh,
hey, you set me up for that one.
No, it's perfect.
But yeah, just like we get a little bit more, and then the wolves attack, which is like it's good because we've been hearing like
of their perils.
Yeah, their perils. We wait for you. All these things of like getting left behind. It's like, you gotta show me. You gotta show me what's so dangerous about this migration here, and they do. With the man bear pigs that attack them.
What the hell are they?
I don't know.
And why weren't those the warg designs than the pug warg?
That's the thing. It's like you have two different wolf designs and they're both bad.
They both don't. I'm not seeing how a wolf.
Do they have like the trademark over what wolves look like? Like you make a wolf and you make it big. Like
that doesn't look like that man bear pig doesn't look like anything our wolves evolved from today.
No, it looks like maybe it's a wild boar or something like that. I
guess, but it's still, and it sounds like you said, a velociraptor.
It does. They're all over the place, honestly. But that was good. And then, the stranger fights them off by slamming the ground and, doing whatever that was.
Sure.
And then in the next scene, like, I wish we should have been shown the Harfoots. She says, like, everyone's talking about you. We should have been shown that a little bit of, like, oh, the chieftain, and like kind of like giving his wife like, I told you so, and she, her begrudgingly being like, okay, he's got his uses. Like the scene when Legolas takes down the Oliphant, and it still only counts as one. Like her after he like shoos the wolves away, she's like, well, he's still dumb, or something like that.
He's still too tall, or whatever. Yeah. We need that moment of her like eating crow or something.
A little bit. So like
she said they should be murdered instead.
And so just something like that to where like, okay, we are bonding with Nori and the stranger. Like there is a good reason why he's here, because that's two things in a row where he's pushing the cart and then he can save them from like the big folk dangers, and that's great, but we don't get any payback for it. We don't get any like, that's the good stuff right there. They just like, okay, yeah, there it is. Oh yeah, they're talking about you, and then immediately, like, if I walk up to a doctor performing surgery or like someone like stitching their arm up, I'm not going to grab them by the arm and be like, hey, what are you doing? What's going on?
So I think the only way I could justify this incredibly dumb and naive choice that she's making, she's watching the stranger, which, by the way, they don't ever give him a name. They don't ever go, you're going to be old beard. You know what I mean? Like
something.
They don't call him by, they have all these little quick sticks and, 2 shimmies of it and all these funny sayings, and they can't give him a fucking name. So anyway, he's Nameless is putting his hand into the water, trying to freeze it. We can tell he's probably trying to do an incantation to heal himself. The only thing I can justify her doing that is, like, she thinks he's an infant or an adolescent, like a baby, and she doesn't know that he's doing something, and so she's trying to protect him. And that's why she grabs his hand. It's the only reason I can justify her stupidly trying to grab him in that moment.
Yeah, it's just like...
Also, why wouldn't she shake his shoulders?
Shoulders! Like, something. Slap him in the face. I don't know.
I guess, like, what I'm saying is, could she have been blasted back without having touched him and still felt threatened?
Like, she should have not seen what was going on and, like been like a little further away and be like, oh my gosh, everyone's talking about what you're doing. And then like walked up and been like, hey, and like touched him on the shoulder. Like, hey, is everything okay? Or something like that. And then you get like does she get like a war flash?
I think she gets, I think she Vulcan, mind melds with him for a second. I think she gets a sense of him. I really do. Because why else flash back to his crater moment and stuff?
And then twice we do it. Well,
we do that. We go back to the crater moment so that when we see the ladies with the shaved or the people with the shaved head using their warding circle or whatever, they're looking at that. And if we don't, I think the showrunners thought if they don't show it to us, like, remember this is where he landed, we wouldn't remember where we wouldn't realize where they were because it was like a cooled off crater.
That is such a microcosm of the problem with this entire show, is that it doesn't trust its audience at all.
To use
like any kind of... We've had
reasoning.
one crater. We have had one crater in this show. What else could it be?
Yeah.
And
you know what? That makes the Southlands to the Mordor title even more offensive.
Yeah. Because
that is exactly indicative of that.
Yeah, the showrunners do not trust the audience whatsoever. And it's like, it's one thing, I don't know, because like you watch the Lord of the Rings movies and, I remember reading the review for it when it came out is like, if you were looking for a previously on, you're not getting it. You are literally diving right back into this story. And it is like, and I think a lot of people expected like a little recap of what happened, but you don't get it. And this one is just like, oh no, just in case you forgot, we're going to show it 2 different times. And it's like, if you want to do that, show the crater. Okay. But then you have to show something else when Nori touches him, because then I don't feel like the danger. It's like, I don't know what she saw that makes her freak out and like afraid of the stranger after this, because it doesn't really make sense.
Yeah, I can't. I know there's something cloudy in there. I can't. It happens so fast. I can't pinpoint what she sees. She does see something else.
Yeah.
But I think if I remember correctly, trying to think back on the next episode or 2, when we come back to the Harfoots, I think she's just hurt that he hurt her. That's
the thing, is that makes her stupid.
I couldn't agree with you more. Because it's one thing if she's actually afraid of something she saw in his brain.
Makes sense.
But if, like a wounded animal. Okay, so, this is how dumb she is.
Okay.
Ever since I was young and we had pets in our household, the one thing my father always told me is they're an animal first and a pet second. They have animal tendencies, and if we don't respect those, you will get bitten or attacked.
Yeah.
I'm not saying act as though every animal and domesticated animal is going to, but, and this was the lesson, do never touch an animal while they're eating. Never put your hand by an animal's mouth while they're eating. He's licking his wounds like an animal, and she touches him.
Yeah, and it's also like we had the sweetest dog, like name was Amanda, and like wouldn't harm a fly, but I remember like I kept like as a kid I was like kept like pulling our little tail and just like she didn't like bite me, but just like turn around and went whoop, like just like didn't even snap, but just like no, didn't even nip, just barked at me. And like that's how good of a dog she was, is that like she just had to do that, and me as a little kid I was like, Amanda, like I started crying because like Amanda had never barked at me. I what is happening? And my mom was like, yeah, like she wasn't around, but my mom
she didn't
was like,
obviously know what was.
Yeah, she was like, you can't do that. Like they didn't get mad at Amanda, they got mad at me, and as they should. It's like, but this, and that's the thing is that like
you got lucky, by the way.
I got very lucky because she's a good dog. Amanda was the best dog we've ever had, but it's just like she just gave me a little warning, like stop.
Yeah,
like and so it's just like you got to be smarter. And that's the thing is that these are people of nature. They all they are doing is traveling and dealing and being afraid of bigger creatures. Like Nori knows at the first episode, she smells and like sees the footprint of the wolf, and she's like, "Okay, we got to go."
Right.
We're gonna
She's
tell.
not an idiot.
Yeah, she knows her way around. Like she knows how to snail, she knows how to fish, knows how to forage, but somehow when something is clearly hurt, when you know it's hurt, you're giving him like the honey, the beeswax, whatever it is. But when you could see that he's healing himself, like it's so stupid.
Yeah, it's so dumb. And also that she didn't. So this is why let's forgive the vet. Let's just accept that she touched him there, right? Or whatever. I think, and I'll be happy to admit when I'm wrong once we rewatch it, but I really think she doesn't see what's in his brain. She's just upset at him. And that is like the other thing is she should have been like you with Amanda going, I just fucked up.
Yeah.
And she's not. So, I'll reserve a little bit of judgment until we get to that to see because I know she, from this point on, is very uncomfortable with him and even allows them to banish once he accidentally hurts the sister. Once they get to the apple orchard and stuff like that. Because she's done with him. She's like discarding him emotionally.
And that's the thing is that like you can be wary of something because he is, 9 feet tall and you're 2 feet tall. Like there is a level of caution that Nori should be taking, but like to be suddenly like, oh my God, don't touch me. It's like, no, like that would be a great moment of like her kind of like waking up and be like, okay, this is someone I don't really know.
Yep.
That is someone that can inadvertently injure me very easily.
Yeah.
Like, and that's a good lesson.
Yeah.
That's a good lesson in itself. You don't have to make this like overcomplicated conflict between these two where Nori is on the like presented to us as a smart Harfoot that isn't like she's presented as like a very modern thinking person where like, oh, to hell with your dumb traditions,
right.
We wait for you. Like she's like very anachronistic when it comes to that. But then all of a sudden she reverts back to like, oh, and then maybe that is a thing like, okay, maybe we should like go back to the rules or something like that. But she doesn't even do that. It's like she still keeps all of her characteristics, but then just adds this layer of fear of this one thing. It makes no sense.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And there's more to unpack there, but like again, they don't deserve this much attention.
They don't. And I think that's why that is because they realized maybe like we're literally halfway through, like we don't really have a lot to do with them. So okay.
I'm interested to see moving forward. There was like a really Gandalf-y look when they were talking about the stepmom, snoring in her sleep, and Gandalf looks at her, and it's a 100%
100%. 100%.
It's no one
good
but
call
Gandalf.
out for sure.
But like, I'm curious to see what role then does Gandalf play moving forward? Because my theory is, if it's Gandalf, he's got to die. Because I don't believe he's at the Battle of the Last Alliance. I think he comes after that. And I don't even know if Sauron's there. And again, they're only operating with the appendices. Saruman? Thank you. I've always struggled with.
No, you're fine. I just want to make sure. Like,
no, you're right. No, I need the clarification. I've always struggled with that. I just if someone knows, and I'll look it up too. I don't think Gandalf's at the battle.
I don't think he's there. I think he's in Middle Earth.
I don't know if that's true, but they may have sent him after that. They might have. They might have. Okay. But anyway, I'm curious to see what they'll do with him in the next. Whether it is Saruman or Gandalf, I'm curious what role he plays here. Okay, so that kind of puts to bed the Harfoots for a little bit, and then we get Numenor getting ready to go.
I have an answer. At least from Reddit.
No, that's great.
Gandalf, a guy on Reddit 11 years ago. Asked where was Gandalf at the time of the Last Alliance, watching the first film, couldn't see him. Also, why is Narsil at Rivendell rather than Minas Tirith? Gandalf wasn't in Middle-earth at the time. The Battle of the Last Alliance took place at the end of the Second Age, and the arrival of the Astari, wizards, from Valinor took place around the year 1000 of the Third Age. Okay, so there it is.
So that, I think that's why a lot of people are like, it can't be Gandalf, you know?
That's very fair. I didn't know that. I was in the belief that they were around in the Second Age because I thought they got sent to stop Sauron, but I guess they got sent to stop his return.
Right. Because I think they just knew they decorporealized him. That being said, it could potentially, they could be rewriting it. It could potentially be Saruman or Gandalf, and he's killed, and then he has to come back. You know what I mean? Like, that journey could be interesting. So I'm just curious what their plans are, because genuinely, I don't think you needed the Harfoots. And especially if Gandalf's not in the Battle of the Last Alliance, Saruman isn't there. I don't know why. Let's put it this way: the entire series of Lord of the Rings, we're meant to relate to the hobbits throughout. We're learning about the world through the hobbits. Yeah. Because everyone else in the world knows about Middle Earth. The hobbits have been so insulated, they don't. So what a great way for us to experience learning about this world by another race that doesn't know it that well. So I feel like the showrunners like, we have to include something like them for people to relate to.
Yeah.
I don't know that I relate to these people.
No, and that's the thing, is that I understand the showrunners' thoughts. I do. Like, all 6 of our movies are through the eyes of these hobbits, the small folks that have not experienced the big world. So I understand why the Harfoots are there. I think they're poorly told because they are not hobbits. They're not friendly. They're not like joyful. They don't take pleasure in anything. We've seen one night of them having half of a party before it's an in memoriam Oscar session.
Yikes.
Like that's all we've seen. And so it's like we're introduced like in Lord of the Rings concerning hobbits, whether it's the extended edition or like, yeah, we get the battle. This is what you're here for. This is Lord of the Rings. And then we get dun. Like, then we get, concerning hobbits, and it's great. And you're like, okay, yeah. I like these guys. And everyone's like, I want to live in the Shire. Middle Earth is scary, but I want to live in the Shire. Or I want to go to New Zealand, where they literally made a tourist attraction out of this perfect little nook of planet Earth. And we don't get any of that with the Harfoots. We don't get any of the joy. We don't get any of the, our love is good tilled earth and good conversation and pipeweed and growing food and drinking ale. None of that.
Yeah.
So it's like, are they going to...
You don't want to live with people that are going to just like take your wheels and leave you to die? You don't want to live with them?
Like, actively murder you. This is not the will of nature. You are murdering somebody. There's a difference. There is a difference if someone breaks down by the side of the road while you are being chased like Mad Max style, and you're like, we can't go back.
Right.
We can't go back for them. There's a difference in slashing their tires. Like the Walking Dead is such a perfect example. It's like there's plenty of times in The Walking Dead where people get bit or, you know, they trip and they fall over and they get overrun by zombies. Yeah, you can't save them. There's also a point where Shane shoots a guy in the leg and says like, oh, the zombies will eat him while I get away.
Whoa.
That's what this old Harfoot hag is doing.
Whoa.
She wants to shoot them in the leg so all the wolves attack them and they have a clean migration.
Whoa. So, we go to Numenor.
Yeah, we're on to Numenor. And this is like kind of the best reason for a rewatch is because all I remember from this was tiny little Morphid Clark. Like this is, and you can't do anything about this. There's no way you can. It'd be very hard to do like, you know, forced perspective on like swordplay and stuff. But I thought honestly, this scene was even that one scene where I thought we were just spinning our wheels and killing time. It is pretty good choreography when she's, you know, 1v7ing all the Numenorians, which again, I wish they were a little better at fighting because they're Numenorians. Like, can Aragorn beat Galadriel in a fight? Absolutely not. But I think he could hold his own.
He would certainly be able to figure it out.
He would be able to land a hit on her or something. I don't know. If she used like her elven power, then no. But like in a sword fight, I think he'd do okay.
Sure.
Yeah. But it's like, I know that I realize there's levels to things in Middle-earth, but the Numenorians are as close to elves as you can get. They're not just like Three Stooges, like, oh, but doink, oh, zoinks, wow! Like, that's literally what happens. It is good choreography. I'm really not, like, trying to nitpick what happens on the show.
No, it is fun. It's actually a fun sequence.
It is a fun sequence.
Great. Yeah, totally with you on
She's killing it. Her hair is, like, flown in the wind. And like you said, this is where the smile should have come in.
Yes.
Like, this is where it doesn't have to be in slow motion or anything, but this is where, like, she's training people. This is what she's good at. Is she learning how to be political and, like, you know, not, you know, blunt force her way through this world? Yes, that's great. But when it comes down to it, she is a skilled fighter.
Right.
And that's what she's been doing for the last few centuries. So it's cool to see her train. But, like, I wish that, again, these are Numenorians. This is like, it's hard to say, like, to explain people that don't read, and I'm not trying to sound elitist or anything, but it's like, it's the easiest comparison is Aragorn. We're like, these are supposed to be 7 Aragorns. Yeah. Better than Aragorn because he's got like a little sliver of Isildur blood after generations and generations and generations. Like, you know, 1,000, you know, was it 1,500 years for the last lines? Or is it
I think at least. Yeah, that sounds right.
And so it's this crazy amount of time between Isildur and Aragorn, but it's like these are like the cream of the crop here. But
I wonder if that's why they don't talk about it that much.
They don't at all. They don't bring
about
it up.
How much they are actually close to elves. We just get their disdain for them because you're so right. They're useless humans. They might as well be in the Southlands.
That's the thing is that I need to see the difference outside of like their attire.
Yeah.
Like outside of them not being like a dirty old bartender that's secretly buff. Like outside of that, there's no difference between them and there couldn't be a bigger difference. And it's, again, it's like, who am I rooting for here? It's like, I should want, like, oh my gosh, I can't wait for the Numenorians to show up in Middle-earth because they are going to kick some ass.
They're going to just go through like a ghost army.
Run through, like, you know, like the Rohan charge at Minas Tirith, just like, whoop, just right through everybody. But I don't get that at all. Instead, we have, like, a draft of a bunch of, I guess, you know, fishermen and blacksmiths and grocers to go fight this war in Middle-earth where it's like everybody looks good in their armor, but they're getting trained to fight like a day before they leave.
So you say Rohan, and it's making me think it's like we're seeing a younger Theoden, and it's like we're seeing, let's just say Isildur is Éomer, but before Éomer is like skilled at what he does.
But that's the thing is that Éomer is him. There is no moment where Éomer turns to a literal 40-foot elephant, and it was just like, I got it. Spear through the heart, and I'm gonna take down 2 along with 1. Like, and that's the thing, is that he's a regular man. Éomer
He's not Númenorian.
He's not. He's just that guy. And
but you look at the Rohan dudes, or the people in general, and you're like, yeah, those guys can handle this. Not a single Númenorian.
No, I don't trust any of them. I do like a lot of this stuff. I really do. I like a lot of, them going back and forth about whether they should go or not. The dad. Now, you said that, like, is the dad seeing the same Palantir vision that everyone else is seeing with the tidal wave? Or does he see something different that he says, I see darkness if you go to Middle-earth?
So he, you know how, like, Denethor had a Palantir?
Yes.
And then Denethor also ended up with some prescience, too. Or, like, some foresight. Because of that Palantir, I believe. I think looking into the Palantir drove the king crazy, but also gave him some prescient abilities. So
okay.
I do think he sees the same thing everyone else is seeing, but I think it kind of like opened up his brainsicles a little bit for it. So I think he can see a little bit into the future.
Okay. Because I was wondering, because, like, if he's seeing everything, the fact that we literally get a shot-for-shot remake when Galadriel looks in, and that's the thing, is the show is not doing itself any favors, where Galadriel is literally seeing the same exact thing from the same perspective as the queen. Like, so I don't know what the king would have seen differently.
Yeah.
So that's why I was like genuinely confused. I was like, so why don't they want to go? Because I thought Númenor was going to flood, and that's all they've seen.
Well, so they don't see in the Palantir how, but the king is afraid by them shirking their loyalty to the elves that's what will bring it about.
Got it. Okay.
So that's why the queen regent welcomes Galadriel back, because doing exactly what they were like what the father thought they would do by saying, not allying themselves with the elves, that's then the tree starts crying and everything, whatever.
Yeah.
So basically the queen regent is beholden to that end game. She's afraid of it, and just like anyone who knows the future, every step you take is in hopes of stopping it and will likely bring it about.
Gotcha.
I think that's what they're dealing with right now.
That's fair. It's just so poorly shown again.
I just don't know what. Yeah, let's put it this way. The wave happens. I don't remember why Alex could tell you, but the wave does happen.
I do know that, because that's like the thing, is that they wash up on shore on Middle Earth. Like,
but the father does not believe that she should go. So that's where I don't know where he's getting that information. Where he says,
that's what I was wondering. It's because, like, we've only seen one thing from the Palantir, and so it's like, I don't know what he's seeing that other people aren't seeing, or
that's why I think the Palantir, just him looking into it so much, is what widens his mind, I think. Because I think that's what happened to Denethor too. Yeah. And let's not forget, Denethor is of Númenorian blood as well, and they've got, some latent abilities and things like that. But the problem with the king here is everyone just thought he was crazy, or were already against the elves, so no matter what,
And I like the stuff with the conspirator, big bearded guy of like,
Pharazôn.
Pharazôn is great, and I like it. I don't like this angle of Middle Earth, but like, if you're gonna do it, at least he's doing it well with his stupid, useless son that doesn't understand basic politics. Like, yeah, dude, if you go help out a different country or a different region, they're gonna want to like help you in turn. Like, it's literally politics 101. Like,
yeah.
So I don't know if I want to blame him for like being like a bad dad and like not teaching his son like the most basic model UN stuff.
Right.
But like I like that scene where it's like, yeah, I don't want to help the elves either. I'm just as racist as you are. Trust me, I raised you. But
clip it, chat.
Clip it. But it's just like, it's what that's what I hate. Is like I can understand. It's just like, especially even like Elendil's daughter is like, yeah,
Virulent racist.
Those dirty old elves. Like, oh god, like it's crazy.
Dirty old elves.
Yeah, it's just so much.
Like where was her hatred of elves cultivated? Especially because Elendil is keeping the torch alive for elves.
That's
so how did the apple fall far from the elf tree there?
I needed her to go to like a secret meeting or like some alt-right groups or something like that.
And be seduced or something.
Yeah, or like, the school she gets into or something is like some like crazy conspiracy school. So, like, you need to show like why, outside of that one racist like blue collar guy that's like, oh, they're gonna take our jobs. Like,
right.
Like, you need to show more of like, why do these people not like the elves?
Yes. Now I think it is just resentment. Like, the elves blessed Numenor with their own like little isle, and I feel like it's just how kids resent their parents. Like, well, we don't need you now, mom. But I could be wrong. But it, and just like over years and years of ignorance being spread, like, oh well, I think also I think the elves were like a little selfish and like, well, you have to pay tribute to us and you have to give us gifts and stuff like that. You're here because of us. I think there was some abuse of power there too.
Did they say that in the show though?
No.
That's like, you have, after the weird slow-mo writing thing, like, have Elendil present, okay, I don't have a problem with you, but this is why some of my people do. Or have the Queen Regent do that. There's so much room, like, as slow as this show is moving.
Such a good point.
There's so much room for, like, to give a quick backstory of, like, hey, you're coming at us real hot right now, Galadriel, and I understand your plight because, the Queen is, like, a person of sound mind and body. Elendil is a person of sound mind and body. Have one of them explain why there's so much prejudice against elves on this island.
And the thing is, even if they did accomplish it, they failed because even if they said this in the first two scenes when we see the Numenorians, which they might have said it in some flowery words, they failed because even after watching it for the third time, I can't tell you why.
Yeah.
And why they don't like each other.
Or like, have, Isildur like talk to his sister where she's like, you shouldn't go. They don't want, it's like, what is wrong with you? She's like, and then she lays out because she's going to college. She's going to college, like whatever she's doing. She's like, this is what I like. I'm learning stuff that you're not learning. Whatever you want to do, like whatever you want.
She's in her safety bubble where she can talk. Yep, totally.
Yeah. Or, like you could even say like, there's different reasons to fear. Like some people are just racist. Sure. But, Isildur's sister is like, what if they bring the darkness back here? Like, you guys are going to fight Mordor, or not Mordor doesn't exist yet, but like, you guys are going to fight Sauron or some darkness. Like, what if they bring it back here? We don't want war. We're in a time of peace. Right. But again, they haven't shown like this prosperous, joyous time that Numenor is having.
Well, yeah, it's not. I mean, I will say, like, the Pharazôn passes wine out to everybody when they're like getting a little riotous, and it does seem like a cool Greek town to live in or whatever. It does. It really does. But you're totally right that there isn't like some sort of harmony that does not incentivize them to go out and fight.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're so dead on that there's so much space. Give us some motivation here.
That's the thing. Give us some motivation. And like that will also help Galadriel with like convincing them like, you know what? My people made mistakes too. And that would have her realize of like, okay, I got to approach this softer because there isn't like this black and white thing. Like elves messed up and they were greedy and they wanted, 10 slaughtered cows every other Sunday or something like that, and Numenor couldn't keep up with it. Like, elves were like being like Goodfellas over here, and like, fuck you, pay me. Like, you don't, like it's there's so many angles.
But that would require character growth, Ben, and we don't do that here.
It's just, again, like I feel like I complain too much on this show sometimes when I really am enjoying this show more than the first time I watched it. But it's just like, again, I see everything that's there. Yeah. And I'm like, you're right there. You're so close to being right there. And maybe they're going to improve. I hope so. I don't want to waste 8 hours of my life watching bad television just because it's Middle Earth related.
Yeah.
I hope it improves. No one wants this show to be good more than me. I promise you.
The literally only thing I'm concerned about is them going, oh, you know what? We're going to nerf Galadriel. She should just be pretty. Or, we're going to listen to the fan. I don't want a J.J. Abrams Return of the Jedi or, the Skywalker. That's literally my worst fear, because there was a lot of people who thought the showrunners were being taken off of the show. I will say this. I don't know if you saw it in our Discord. Ulrich of Geeks with Shields, a friend of ours, friend of the podcast, their own podcast, he said that we are towing the line of not being too nitpicky but critical at the same time. Like, that we were doing a good job with that. I don't know if he's going to feel the same after listening to this episode. I'm actually joking. I do think we can tout the merits of the show while also, as people who love what they're trying to do, ask for something a little bit more.
And that's the thing, is that I definitely don't want a Rise of Skywalker situation where it's like somehow Sauron has returned and that's like the only explanation we get. I'm all for unique storytelling while not, you look at the Halo show, and I gave up on that thing like 3 episodes in, where like there is so much lore that they could have taken from the Halo show and they just like ignore all of it, and kind of like in the you've never seen, if you ever played the Halo games, you've never seen Master Chief's face ever. And like,
sure.
And like the first Halo game came out when I was in middle school or high school or something. And that's a while ago. I hate to say it. The first episode of Halo, they show his face. Like the actor takes off.
Why would they do that?
I don't know. Especially when you just had the Mandalorian. Like, everyone knows what Pedro Pascal looks like. Everybody.
Right.
Like, no matter what. And so you build it up over 2 seasons, and then when he takes his helmet off, like at the finale of the 2nd season, to say goodbye to Baby Yoda, you're crying, you're sobbing, like it's so meaningful. And so
is it because they didn't want to be conflated with the Mandalorian, though? Do you think that's what
it might have been in the actor's contract, where some actors like aren't comfortable, like, the famous thing of why Tom Cruise wasn't Iron Man was that he wanted a clear face. Like, he didn't want the Iron Man mask. He wanted like a face shield instead.
So that he could be seen.
Yes.
You know what? I'm really glad we don't live in the version of Earth where Tom Cruise is Iron Man. Yeah. I'm really glad. I will say, though, I love this clause in their contract. Ryan Reynolds is contractually obligated to show his abs in every movie he is, because he said, I've worked so hard to get them that they have to be shown. I know.
It is.
I know.
I realize they're probably like on steroids and stuff like that, but steroids don't like just give you abs. Like, you have to work and diet, and even, Robert Pattinson got in a lot of trouble for saying that, where he's like, I'm not going to dehydrate myself for the shot. Like, I'll work out. Like, I'm going to work out. I'm going to get in shape for Batman, but I'm not going to, take HGH. I'm not going to starve myself, the night before a shirtless scene or something like that, because that's what they do. And you know what? They look great. And like, we've said it before, where I'm just like, I feel bad for Chris Hemsworth because Thor is sleeveless. Like, throughout all of his movies, like, you have to be constantly pumped up. Like, there is no days off of shooting. Like, so that dude is just doing curls in between takes to look that good.
Whoa. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, because, like, Captain America, like, there's a few shirtless scenes with Chris Evans and a few, like, short sleeve scenes, but mostly in his...
That is spandex, though. They could also draw in lines if they needed to. But
no, but like I'm saying, like, there's a few shirtless scenes in Captain America where, like, you have to be buff.
No, but what I'm saying is, regardless, even though he's not as, like, showing his arms the whole time, he's still Curlin the whole time.
Oh,
too.
for sure. But even like it was so funny when what's his Jensen Ackles from is it Supernatural, that show?
Sure.
He was on The Boys, and
Okay.
like The Boys, like the cast. Do you watch The Boys?
I've watched the first 2 seasons.
But like there's like an evil Superman character, and like
Yeah.
he like pranked him with saying like, yeah, dude, you got to get in shape. But then like when he showed up and he was like, he's in shape, hired a trainer, all that. He's like, yeah, dude, we put muscles in the suits. Like, you're going to be in a suit the whole time. Like,
oh my
and it's
God.
Like, and even like Jason Momoa had that Instagram post. He was like, oh yeah, Chris Hemsworth, you're working out. Look, me too. And like, he's in his buffed up Aquaman suit. And it's like, yeah, dude, like that's all you need to do. It's so great.
Oh my God. I actually do love the pulling back the curtain of that a little bit.
Yeah.
And I actually really do respect Ryan Reynolds wanting to have that clause in his contract. Is, you know what? He's like, I fucking worked really hard for this,
Hell
motherfucker.
Yes.
And
if I look like I watched Roadhouse with Jake Gyllenhaal, and like he's ripped out of his mind. And it's like if I look, or I was just at the Ren Fair, and like I only saw one shirtless guy, but he was just shredded, and like just like he had like like some armor gauntlets on. I was like, you know what? If I look like that, you couldn't pay me to put a shirt on. Like, you'd have to. I don't care. Like, I used to be, 25. Like, I was like in decent shape, and we used to be sleeveless at like Saddle Ranch and stuff like that. But like, if I was that ripped, oh my God, would I have? Like, I'd be every shirtless cosplay you could ever think of.
Oh my God.
Shirtless at every convention. Absolutely. You know how hard it is to, like, especially now, because you look at, like, old strongmen competitions and stuff like that where they were just, like, big.
Yeah.
But, like, you look at, like, fitness TikTok and stuff like that.
Aww.
Everybody is so, like, 0% body fat. The body standards are insane nowadays. To where, like, I remember seeing one where it was like, yeah, I know I'm not, like, in my best shape. I was like, and I was looking at this dude, I was like, this dude is crazy, but what is, like, I remember thinking, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go to the gym and like maybe I'll do like a progress video or something. Never. You're never gonna find me any kind of flexing on anything, because people that work out for years and maybe like don't have like the crazy counting their macros, counting calories, like no cheat meals ever, they're not even doing that, and they're being judged for it because they like had like a cheeseburger like once, like every leap year or something. Like the fitness standards are so insane now. So yeah, absolutely. Shout out to Ryan Reynolds for having abs, because it is very hard.
I actually could probably do a whole episode on my opinions with regards to this. Ultimately, what I would say is health comes in many different packages.
Yes.
And I really wish that a lot of those people that you just referenced are doing the best for themselves, actually. That's all I want. So I'm not here to say zero body percent fat, 0% fat on a body is actually not healthy for a woman. I know
I don't think it's healthy for anybody, honestly.
I think there are like margins. Anyway, there's a lot of stuff we could talk about with regards to this, and I'm just going to take a step back from it. We basically see Numenorians ship off. We saw some decent Numenorian armor. We don't see great armor for Galadriel. She even looks really awkward when she like goes to extend her hand to.
Yeah, it does like the forearm shake.
It's so robotic. We still have to talk about Durin and Elrond, but I do just want to like say that I do like the scene between Galadriel and Sauron, Halbrand, where he literally says sorry for killing your brother, and they're talking they are like equals emotionally with what they're going through, and I just think it's a good scene, especially now knowing that he's Sauron. I will say this. When this scene happened and I watched the show for the first time, this pretty much sealed the deal for me that he was Sauron. Because he said, and when he confronts her, like, well, what is it? What are you fighting for? Why are you trying to drag me back? I'm done. I swore I'd never go back. And Galadriel's being such an asshole because she's not listening to him. She is the bad guy here.
Yeah, it's so weird because like you have a few scenes of like her realizing like the mistake she made, and then she goes just like right back to it.
Yeah, her growth really is not good, and her like self-awareness is really low. And I can buy why, but it's she's just being a jerk to her supposed friend here, you know?
Yeah.
And granted, they're a little tit for tat. He sold her out to get them, you know, the iron badge or whatever.
Yeah.
So they're going toe to toe, but that means you're just like Sauron, bitch. And the moment I knew is when she said, "My brother, I'm fighting for my brother," and blah blah blah, blah, blinded by it, blah blah blah, and he says, "I'm sorry." Period. I'm sorry for you losing your brother.
And then she says, "What does your sorry mean?" I was like, "Oh my god!"
Yeah. Oh, it's too much. You know, her emotional threshold's too low. But that was the moment where he literally apologizes for the death of her brother. There
are Sauron and Galadriel equals, like overall,
power wise.
Or is like Sauron like more powerful? Because like it's shown, at least in the, you know, I know it's like maybe a weakened state where he's like the quote unquote necromancer, but like she does banish him from Dol Guldur. And
probably not equals at his full power.
That's fair. I don't know if anybody is, but like, yeah, I was wondering about that. I was like, because they are presented as equals, like in this scene. And I was wondering, it kind of made me think. I think like,
intelligent equals is what I meant more.
Okay,
like they understand the scope of the world differently than like humans do. They exist on different planes of existence. That's what's interesting too. How is she not able to like read his aura? Like,
I don't know, man. Like,
that's weird.
They ask a lot of us to like just
suspension of disbelief, you mean?
Yeah, they really ask a lot of us about like, hey, we're gonna kind of pull the rug out from under you when it comes to like the Sauron reveal. And it's like there's a whole lot. I like, you know, him, you know, forging and stuff like that. Like, oh yeah, we get it. He forged the rings. Okay.
Right.
That's good, and I like that, but on top of everything else, it's like, sheesh. They ask a whole lot of us to just like, yeah, this guy was Sauron the whole time. Like, it, and I realize there's a lot of movies with twists and stuff like that don't make sense. You know, Ocean's 11 you can kind of pick apart as well with like heists and stuff like that of like, oh, they were the cops, and it's like, okay, how did they do that? Like, like you can do that with a lot of movies with twists. Like very few movies are The Sixth Sense where they cover a lot of bases.
To the point like, where you can flash back and go, do you remember this moment?
Yeah, like literally showing you like, hey, yeah, Red, the doorknob, they don't talk at dinner, like all these things. Spoilers for Sixth Sense, sorry. But yeah, there is just like a lot of like, trust me, bro, when it comes to Halbrand. And watching this again, that might be my biggest thing of like, yeah, I like that there are really good scenes, like the jail cell scene where it's like, yeah, he is Sauron, you know, especially when like my favorite scene so far with them is him telling her how to deal with the queen.
Right.
Like, hey, you threatened to basically invade, you insulted her in front of the entire court, and she didn't do anything. You mention her father one time and she throws you in jail. What does that tell you? Now, granted, that like makes Galadriel seem very stupid.
She's an idiot, totally.
But it's a really great Sauron presenting scene. I really like that. But a lot of the other stuff, I'm just like, he really wanted to stay in Numenor? He really just wanted to like have a 9 to 5? Like,
so you say you don't think he did?
I don't know. Does he? Like,
I think he does a little bit. I think right now his pride and ego is wounded. He wants to lay low and just build stuff. Now, I think he also... Come on, don't you...
He's not Mark Zuckerberg that, like, you know what, I got kicked out of Mordor, let me make a rate women website. How hot is this? How hot is Galadriel? Oh, she's a 7 out of 10. I got my ex-girlfriend. Like, he's not some sensitive billionaire. He's an evil, masterful mastermind of a Dark Lord.
And so maybe he knows that he's got to forge something. And like, I'm just saying, like, right now, he doesn't see the path to him gaining power again. And so he does. I do believe that he thinks, I believe that he believes that he wants to just chill for a little bit. I believe that he believes that. I think a time would have come.
I just have to accept it, otherwise I'll lose my mind.
Why?
Okay, so are we to now? We're gonna get to the Southlands right now. Are we to believe that Adar is stronger than this current version of Sauron?
I think Adar bested him somehow.
Okay,
and expelled him. I think that's why when Sauron sees him, I think this is what I remember, and this is what I think we'll see, especially because of how loyal the orcs are to Adar, so much so that the guy is saying Lord Father while he's letting his son.
Yeah,
the son.
Great scene.
Sauron treated the orcs as expendable and his army, and Adar cared for them as beings. And so Adar was able to overthrow Sauron by culling the favor of the orcs.
That's a lot of favor.
But I think if you're actually shown... Now, I don't know how we're going to excuse these two alpha males coexisting together. Why did Adar show up? Why is there another corrupt elf hanging around? Or, like, who is Adar? Why is he hanging out with Sauron? Is he Wormtongue in this scenario? You know what I mean? Like, I don't understand that, but I think Adar was in some sort of brotherhood position with Sauron.
This is the thing, is that, like, I asked this because at the end of the season, there's no, like, if Adar would have died, like, in the, the Mount Doom creation or Mordor creation, that would have made some sense. But in the end, he's running Mordor, and we see, like, a hooded Halbrand, like, sneaking back in.
Returning, yeah.
Yeah, returning to Mordor, where it's just like, he doesn't have the ring. The ring hasn't been created yet. And so he's not returning with any power. So is he gonna... I'm wondering, because the actor changed, like, if they're just gonna kind of kill off the character sooner rather than later in this next season.
Probably.
But it without that knowledge, you bring up a good point of, like, what they were gonna do with Adar, because he's a very intriguing character of, like, how did he do this? How did he curry favor with all of the orcs, and, like, the way he treats them as brothers, even though he does treat them as subordinates as well. Like, he's clearly
the leader for sure.
Yeah.
But he, just like a good leader, some of them rule with an iron fist and he rules with honey. Do you know what I mean? Like, but he still has ambition. Yeah.
So it was an interesting storyline, but I'm wondering what they're going to do with it now.
I do think that threw a wrench into things. I didn't even think about that. Because you pointed this out so well. The baddies in the movies, and the first one is the Nazgul, the second one is Saruman, and the third one is Sauron. Now that we know Sauron is who Sauron is, we don't need Adar as the baddie again. So now what I was looking forward to in season 2 was the coming to a head of that argument.
Yeah, that could be. But it's like, when it comes to that, is it going to be Halbrand, like, whispering into the ears of orcs, because he has no army?
I think he's gonna shape shift, or we're gonna because here's the other thing. Just looking ahead, he has to go back to Numenor. He has to go back there. How? They know what he looks like. Do you know what I mean? So there's a lot of things that they kind of like made more difficult for themselves by revealing who Halbrand is.
Yeah, like, Halbrand should have become friends with bearded political
Farazan, totally.
Yeah, like, that would have been a cool angle where you see that, like, you don't have to show any conversations, but, like, maybe like a glance as they're leaving, or like a nod as they're leaving. You can be like, what was that about? And then when you get the reveal of Sauron, you're like, oh, he planted seeds back in Numenor, and
he's been dead the whole time.
something like that, where it's like, oh, like, because this guy wants to trade with the Southlands and stuff like that, and maybe he'll do it with Mordor as well, and like he's got that foothold in there, just something like that. But
yeah, what a good point.
But we get that with the Southlands. They're going to defend the tower, and not much happens without, like, half the people leave to go kneel to the orcs, and the Adar makes the old man stab the kid, I
don't think he actually does that, though, because I think the kid's still alive. I don't remember.
Does he? I don't remember.
I think they make us think that happened, but then I think I remember seeing the kid and going, oh, well, then what happened to him? But this is a good moment where we finally get an answer as to who someone is, where the Haldrag is like, I pledge fealty to you, and Sauron, Lord Sauron, and he's like, and he gets so mad, and it's so great.
Choke slams him. He's like, well, I pledge loyalty to you, whoever you are.
Yeah, he's a snake, because he's a snake. Yeah, he's worse than a snake. He's like a little weevil. But it's really good. And then we see the mounting pressures, and then they, the tower's gonna fall, and then you realize, oh, we should make the tower fall. Yeah, it's so bad. It's so bad. But they're building good tension here. It is working.
It is, but it's just like,
he's the dad that stepped up.
But it's just like one of those things where it's like, do you need, like, them to realize that by someone literally saying it? It's just
it's television. It's a visual medium. I can forgive some obvious things like that, but it's a little egregious. It's a little campy.
But yeah, and then I think that's kind of it with the Southlands. Like, how'd you feel about Bronwyn kind of like losing hope, because she was the one like making the speeches, and then everyone left? Like, do you like that, or did you want her to like?
I think it's very human, and I think that's what a Rondir, again, this is where I'll point to this scene to be like, not a great actor, right? But again, adorable and amazing and killing it. Just not like the best actor you've ever seen. But his speech is very good. Don't let this one moment of despair undo all of the bravery and all the hope that you've had up till this point. And I actually, that line landed on Jessica, the human, going, God, sometimes it feels useless. Or I feel useless, or this doesn't feel worth it, or something. And it does make you want to just give up right then and there. But that one moment of despair doesn't undo all the actions you took up to this point, too. I just thought that was human, and I liked that.
It was good. I liked it as well.
Yeah, I don't think I need her to be 100 rock hard the entire time. You know what I mean? You heard me. So sometimes, going up and down is fine.
These are sponsored by Blue Chew.
Go to hims.com.
Right? So that's our last part, and then we go to Elrond and Durin, and
which we did talk a lot about the Gil-galad scene and talking about the corruption, essentially, of the elves.
I always like to highlight Durin, because he is the best part of the show.
That's why we're waiting for it, and that's why we're talking about it last, because we get some fucking great like you said, we got some Survivor mole shit out of Durin today. It's just very good.
Because, like, Gil-galad is like, oh, so I heard you guys found why are you guys like delving so deeply lately?
Why are you working so hard lately?
Yeah, like you put in that OT.
Why are you so buff?
Yeah. He's like, well, I'll answer your question with another question. Like, what's up with this table? Because this is a ceremonial stone that we only use for, monuments and tombs. Like, but you're eating food. And he's like, I'm so sorry. You can have it. And then just like later on, he's like, oh yeah, Disa wanted another like dinner table. Great stuff. And it's a really good scene with him and Elrond too, where like Elrond says, like, I don't want to break your oath, but this is what's going on here.
I do think, and tell me if I'm wrong, I feel that by the amount of times Elrond references the oath to Gil-galad, he may as well have broken the oath.
I think he's cool. I think
and did he give Celebrimbor the mithril and win. That's breaking the oath.
Yeah, I missed that part. I don't know if I was going pee at that moment, but just like I missed that part where Celebrimbor just has the mithril.
How? Because that's the whole thing. He's not supposed to tell anybody about it. But Celebrimbor's had it long enough. Okay, Hi Penguin has had it long enough to test it under every single situation.
Yeah, it's really strange that he's just like, yeah, I did every test. I'm like, what test did you do?
And when did Elrond break the oath to give it to you? Elrond's like, look, I just took a shit. This is mithril.
oh, look what fell out of my pocket with, a few paper clips. Like,
I just found some palladium. There we go.
Yeah. And so it's like I want to be on Elrond's side, but I don't know if I can in this. It's done. This conversation's done very well, where he's like, I don't want to break your oath, even though Celebrimbor tested out this thing fully in the lab, and Gil-galad 99% knows about it as well, but I haven't specifically told them. Like,
I do think this is the kind of communication, though, that I'd rather be represented, that they're telling each other, at least.
Yes.
Like, I want better and good representations like this, where if you are poised with the conundrum, talk to the person. And I love the phrase that Elrond said too. The heaviness of the table isn't what's weighing on me. And when sharing a burden depends on whether you're sharing with one person that'll double the weight or have it. And that's so cool. Like, there's some really, really excellent lines in this.
Give me the meat and give it to me raw.
Enough with the quail sauce. It's probably the best line in the entire
They're
season.
So good, and I don't know how the showrunners didn't realize, like, in their first scenes together, like, oh, we've got something here.
Yeah.
We've got, like, lightning in a bottle with these two.
Yes.
Rewrites right now for the next 5 episodes, heavy on these two right here. Like, it's such a...
But there's not enough plot to give them to do. You know what I mean? Like, I think this is the problem when you're doing like a Crash where all the stories come intertwine with each other. You can lose sight of just the relationships, which is all audiences give a fuck about. And
because, like, in the few scenes they've shared together, when he says, like, the fate of the elves are in your hand, and he just, like, say it again. And then, like, you give, like, he gives, like, a little side eye one more time. And then he goes, Like, it's so, it's so good. It's so good. And, like, we've gotten so little with them. And that's how good they are, is that we don't need much, but to get to this point, but we could have had so much more. And it's a great scene with, like, hey, like, I didn't think I was coming for Mithril, but I guess I was. Like, Elrond really was coming about the tower. He had no idea what the Mithril was, but he has to admit that, like, that's what we really need. Now that I know about it, and now that I know the plight of my people that were slowly dying without it because of whatever darkness is happening in our immortal tree, now I need it. And it's a great thing of, like, Durin being like, my dad was right. But it's a great friendship moment of being like, I do believe you that you weren't there for this, but it's just forced upon you now. So now let's go talk to my dad. And that's a great moment.
I think it's a beautiful friendship. It's a beautiful relationship. And it's all coming through honesty and owning one situation. And it's just beautiful. And
it really is.
Him saying, give it to me, give me the meat, give it to me raw. And then him going, is... Top 10 television moments.
It
really
so good.
is.
And then them, like, the button on the scene with, like, I'll do it on one thing that, like, the dinner table was from me. Like, it's so, like, you bring it all around to the humanizing thing of this friendship. Where, like, yeah, we've got some real big implications, but it all comes down to friendship and this relationship. And it's like, this is what I signed up for. This is the season of television that I wanted. This is the $1 billion right here.
Literally.
And that's the good stuff.
Legolas Gimli 2.0 and better almost.
It's just we just get more of it, and so it's like this is the let me find you a box side by side with a friend. Like that's all we need. That's all we got from Legolas and Gimli, and then now with like the guy I sent you on TikTok of them like him kind of like filling in the blanks for people that don't realize of what happened after with Legolas and Gimli, why it was a big deal with Galadriel and her hair. Like I love that stuff, but even without it. Like Orlando Bloom's smile when he tells her about the hair, like find you a box, and then them fighting Helm's Deep and like them building that relationship together. This is what we came for, and it's so good. It's so great.
You reminded me of like one of my main tenets of how I perform improv. And, there's a lot of people that really are so smart and that can rattle off information and name people. And a lot of people have opinions on improv. So I won't try to sell you on it right now. But the way I do improv is you are a box. I try to let my emotions and how I'm reacting to somebody and each different character on stage tell and do the story for me. Because you can fill in the blanks or you can write the story behind it. But if you're behaving a certain way about somebody, you get a lot of information in those interactions. So,
yeah.
I mean, this is why we're riveted and waiting to dine out on what happened between Adar and Sauron. What was the betrayal? Why doesn't Adar remember Sauron? You know what I mean? Like, there's some things there. That's a relationship that we're like waiting on hind legs for. So, right as we started, I think I said this while we did the watch through too. This episode was much better than I remembered it being, but also the frustration of a lot of people is true. It's like, fucking just go to Middle Earth already. What are we waiting for? Like there's a couple things that it's like, why have we waited this long? But we got some really great tension building scenes. We really did. So what's your overall takeaway of this episode?
It is better than I remember, because I remember like our last episode was like, oh great, like we got the declaration to go to Middle Earth. Now we've got a whole episode of a training arc and something basically like that.
Right.
And it was more than that. I fully admit that I was wrong, that it was more than that. But it's like I see it that this was better, and next episode is easily the best episode of the season. But then it's followed by the worst, and so it's just like we're like. Click, 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 up the roller coaster, and we're about to go down, and then we're literally just gonna slam on the brakes as soon as we're picking up speed, and the roller coaster's gonna derail, Final Destination style. We're all gonna fucking die.
Jesus Christ. A small little Jessica lore story. My dad used to go to a go-kart place in Van Nuys that he loved. It was like his summer thing. Pepe's in Van Nuys, doesn't exist anymore. And finally, all three of his kids were old and tall enough to ride in the go-karts, and it was a day. And we went with my mom. It was my dad. My mom never was really allowed to go to things. It was a tough relationship between them, but she was there, and my uncle was there, and I was tall enough and my brother was tall enough to ride by ourselves. But since we were brand new, my dad thought it would be best if we all were on a lap of an adult. So my dad had my brother, I had my mom, and my uncle had my sister. My mother and I, just like episode 5 and 6 of this series, were cooking. We were blowing past everybody. We were going so fast. My brother spun out. We were first. We were so fast that when they did the final lap, we were ahead of it. So it looked like we came, I know. It looked like we came last, but we actually just got a free fucking lap because we just took.
Hell yeah.
It was great. In hindsight, the reason we were going so fast is because my mother didn't know there were brakes on the go-kart.
Love it.
She thought it automatically stopped when you got to the end of like when you pulled out.
Oh no.
So also like this series, heading towards the worst episode, we ran into a brick wall.
I've done it.
Have you?
Yeah. Like I was part of fishing club in high school. I never got to go on a fishing trip because I was always playing sports. But at the end of the year, we paid $20 and this place called Adventure Park, which, had everything. A mini golf, bumper boats, and arcade, and go-karts. And they had two different types of go-karts. One was like open-faced, like kind of like Autopia kind of carts.
Oh, not a
like,
cage?
But there was one with a cage, and I was either a freshman or sophomore. I can't remember. So I was still
Because
pretty.
the cages cook, right? Those are the ones that go very fast. No,
the open car ones were the fast ones. But like I remember, like all I did all day, so much so that I literally had like black soot on my face because I was just go-karting all day.
That sounds amazing.
Because the park was just ours. Like we went on like a school day, so no one was there.
Wow.
So you could literally like. They'd make you get out and get back in line, but you could be on the cars all day, maybe wait one race in between if there's enough people.
Oh, it sounds amazing.
But it was so fun. But one of the times I got a closed car, like literally like a NASCAR looking one, and I was going, and then just like it's like one of those core memories where you see like they'll put like the bumper down over the track and like kind of direct you back into the pit. And I didn't see it. I missed like the warning light.
Yes.
When you go around, and all I see was just this guy going that, and just boom, straight into like the blockade. Car was fine. I was fine because they give you like the over the shoulder belts and everything like that. But it was just like. After that, the guy was like, "You're fine," or like he checked on me. He's like, "Are you okay?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm good." And I walked away, and he's like, "Okay, no more close cars for you. Like you can go again, but you are not tall enough." Like I was tall enough, but just apparently like the close cars were just like I couldn't see out because like I had a big growth spurt in high school. I went from like 5'6" to 6 foot, like. Like I grew a lot.
That's like painful. Like when they talk about growing pains,
yeah,
it's actually
I had growing
painful.
pains in high school. Like I look at my old licenses, I was like, oh my god, I was 130 pounds in like 8th grade.
Oh
and then
my god,
I went to 170 by senior year, and so it was just like, yeah, it was one of those memories where you're going, and man, I'll remember that hit my entire life because it hit. And like you're a kid. Luckily, this happened when I was like 13,
and you can bounce back.
You can bounce back because like that seatbelt like you hit and then it bounced off. And then I had been like on the bumper boat, so like my jeans were all soaking wet, and I'm just like,
oh, not because you peed yourself,
not because I peed myself, but just like my whole like bottom half was like soaking wet.
Jesus
my
Christ.
face is covered in soot, and then you're just like, and you get right back in line. And God, I missed that. Now,
what a fucking day!
What a day! And now you're just like, oh God. I remember
you'd be dead.
I'd be dead. But it was so funny. I'd gone on the go-kart so much, Jess. My in-shape self, who was playing water polo, basketball, and swimming, still the next day I was limping because my right foot my right leg was extended the whole time pressing a gas or thing. Like my right leg was still so sore from just like it being extended all day of pressing a gas pedal. Like it was
that
crazy.
Sounds like my most recent injury for playing power wash for 7 hours and my clicking finger. I didn't realize you could toggle it on and off. I thought you had to hold it down the whole way, and I got a stress injury.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Now like we played like I can't use keyboard and mouse because like I guess I have like a really bad carpal tunnel. Like we were playing like that new game Content Warning. Like I'm not playing Valorant or Call of Duty or something where you're like, oh my god,
you're not
craziness.
Building on Fortnite or anything. Yeah,
I'm just like AWSD and just like directional moving, and I'm just like, oh man, my arm's getting sore. Let me go back to controller real quick.
Jesus fucking Christ, incredible. Well, this has been a wonderful, really, I think some of our best analytical work on this episode.
I think so as well.
We also are benefiting from having just watched it with our Patreon members. You too can join us for a watch through and get exclusive access to the video version of this show if that interests you, because we're two good looking people, so it should interest you. You can join us over at patreon.com/podcast of the rings. For as little as $2 a month, you can join the watch alongs with us, and once we get to a certain amount of Patreon people, we are getting really cool bonus content. So you want to go in there, support us now, and make our dreams come true, you guys.
Do it. Just support us. Or if you can't monetarily, that's totally okay. I know times are tough.
Yes.
5 stars wherever you guys are watching. 5 stars, and maybe write a little review of how awesome we are. That'd be great.
I always like reading those on Apple Podcasts, so I'd love that if you did that. Thank you so much. And Join us for episode 6 of Rings of Power next week, dropping next Tuesday.
Week is the banger.
The best episode. I'm excited.
I am too.
And if they join now after listening to this, they could watch that with us.
I am so excited for this watch along because like this episode ends with, them going to Middle Earth and the score is just going through the rafters. It was
Bear's
great.
like giving it all.
Oh, for sure. So I cannot wait for like the charge of the Southlands, which is happening.
Oh, it's so exciting. All right, folks. Until next time.
May our paths meet again.
Ba, 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 ba. It's so